I just got done watching The Pod Generation. This was my first film for Sundance 2023. I'm doing it virtually so I don't freeze my ass off. But with that said, we have a fun review today. If you are new here and you love talking indie movies, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's dive into what The Pod Generation is all about. Because in the not-so-distant future, AI is all the rage and nature is becoming a distant memory. Giant Pegasus offers couples the opportunity to share pregnancy on a more equal footing via detachable artificial wombs, or what they say as pods. Now, this stars the likes of Emilia Clarke, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and it's directed and written by Sophie. Now, the thing about Sundance is there's always these unique and weird movies that come about that sometimes are not perfect, sometimes they're hit or misses, but what I love is that they're always filled with passion. And coming out of this movie, this was one of my most anticipated going into the festival, and I knew it was going to be one way or the other. This is going to be one of the biggest surprises, or it could be kind of middle of the road. I didn't expect it to be bad, but I actually find something a little bit in between there. It's not exactly what I expected it to be, but it's also not what I thought it was going to end up going to be by the end of this. And in the way, the best way to kind of explain this is it's like an episode of Black Mirror or a sci-fi version of The Twilight Zone, where we get an episode, a lengthy more episode, of course, like in an hour and 41 minutes, specifically instead of like 30 minutes to an hour, about a couple who is experiencing a unique way of childbirth, and it has this absurd satirical nature to it where it's having conversations about childbirth, about our obsession with technology and things like that. And the things that you see the couple kind of go throughout this movie, while a bit repetitive, it nails home what exactly the entire concept is about, because this is something that if could possibly happen in a way, can kind of happen with technology today, that people would take the opportunity. And for me, seeing the differences between Emilia Clarke and Chiwetel Ejiofor and what their different ideologies is with this entire piece of technology and childbirthing and everything like that is very specific. Specifically, as you've seen many movies about childbirth and how they handle different things. Maybe they want a home birth. Maybe they want the birth to happen in the hospital. Maybe they want it to happen in a hometown. These ideas actually go throughout this movie, even though there's, like, again, an absurd nature to it all. And again, Emilia Clarke is incredible in this. I don't think she gets enough credit as an actress of what she's been doing. And even Chiwetel Ejiofor just continues to ramp it up. These two, their chemistry, you really do believe them as a couple, and they are the focal front of this entire film. And I like how Chiwetel Ejiofor's character is very much a guy who is very much a biologist that works with plants and all this sorts of things, but in this kind of culture, a lot of them use science and holograms, I guess, to actually build about this entire thing, and that's not what he wants. He wants to actually have a greenery, and that is one of the biggest aspects of it. And while, again, you don't get into super deep details of each character's life, it's the world building and the production design around them that actually speaks for their stories, very much what kind of character and story that they've had in the past. And I actually think that's where Sophie Barthes' writing and directing is at its highest peak, because the production design is stellar, and the world building is actually one of the biggest aspects of this entire concept, and the way that they build up the sci-fi annuities about it all. Now, like I mentioned, you get aspects of Emilia Clarke where you see that she is kind of this, she's all about the sci-fi realm. She goes all about the technology. She's a big proponent for it. And Chiwetel Ejiofor is kind of the one that's at arm's distance about it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. I actually think the way that this kind of pod intersects in bringing that to life, and really much where you see Chiwetel Ejiofor kind of starting to come around on this pod, and what actual issues it starts to relay to Emilia Clarke. And it's very interesting to see two different ideologies start to shift and change as they go through this whole process of pregnancy. And I thought it was actually kind of beautiful for all that. The more that I actually sit on the movie, the more that I start to like it more. And this is actually one of the movies that, as of kicking off Sundance, it's a nice little movie. Is it perfect by any means? No. And that's where I actually want to get into this, is because as I started watching the movie, I clearly kind of started indicating that this is going to be one of those movies that does feel a little bit repetitive, and it's going to keep going through all the different ideologies and different ways of just really much exploring this world. And that's why I very much say it kind of reminds me of Black Mirror and Twilight Zone, is because in those shows, I've never felt emotional towards any of the characters or scenarios that we are getting. They're always just very entertaining to see kind of an outlook on certain things that are going on in our world. And looking at this movie, it's kind of the same way of that viewpoint. I was not emotionally entwined between their story at all. I was not very emotionally intersected, and that is one thing that I do kind of wish, specifically because I'm watching an hour and 42-minute movie. I want to be invested with these characters. I want to be invested with what's going on in their lives, and I wasn't feeling that here. But on the off chance of that I don't think was really the point, but I do think it could have added a little bit of an elevated to everything within this story. So The Pod Generations, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it overall, and I think this is one that I think when it finally does come out on, say, a streaming service or a theaters, there most likely is going to be a chance that it does find an audience, because The Pod Generation, again, feels like a sci-fi Twilight Zone episode with more humor to it all. An absurd satirical outlook on pregnancy and obsession with technology. Clarke and Ejiofor are great, and the world building is unique, but the story itself lacked emotion. While this is a solid first Sundance 2023, the more that I sit on it, the more that I like it, and I think this is going to have that kind of cult audience that will really much enjoy this movie. So with all that said, I'm going to give The Pod Generation a B-. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching this. You guys are really all the best. I will have countless Sundance coverage on this channel over the next few days, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more. Comment down below your guys' thoughts, and of course, until next time, stay classy.